local teacher shares her 9/11 story, and it might be a perspective you haven't heard before.
Showcasing the sacrifice of our first responders on this 9/11 anniversary, we'll show you tributes and events like this happening all across our county.
San Diego's largest environmental cleanup is just 8 days away. Learn how you can get involved and help make beaches a cleaner place.
Only a few days left to cast your ballot in the recall election. What are the top candidates up to?
Plus, why Taco Bell is asking for your old sauce packets back. News 8 at 6 starts right now.
Tomorrow marks 20 years since the September 11th terrorist attacks. Even 2 decades later, the images and what we all felt during the tragedy still resonates in the hearts and minds of Americans. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. One of the most common questions people ask is, where were you on 9/11? For one local teacher, she was flying across the country to San Diego to visit family. But her story has a different perspective.
She is deaf, and too often in times of crisis, the deaf or those with sensory disabilities are the last to learn what's happening. News 8's Kirsten Holmes sat down with her and shares her story.
Remember where you were on 9/11, and then imagine for a moment what that experience would have been like for you if you couldn't hear and there was no direct communication with you. That was Laura Kim's experience as she made her connecting flight at the Denver airport.
Just like a regular flight, we walked out of the gate off of the airplane, but I noticed all the flights on the monitors had been canceled, like every single one of them.
And that served as Laura's first clue that something wasn't right. Immediately, she asked an airline gate attendant what was going on.
She just wrote 2 words to me, and I could see that people around me were panicked. I could see that their behavior and their emotions in their face, and I knew something was up. I found a security guard and said, "Please tell me what's going on." So he said that the World Trade Center had been attacked by terrorists. I looked for a restaurant, and luckily there was closed captioning on that television. So thank God for that. But then I saw the images over and over, the plane flying into the towers, and I was shocked. There was one piece of footage where I saw people falling from the building, and that just was awful. I felt really sad for those people.
And when Laura Kim tried to get in contact with her family, all of the payphones were busy. Once she reached the only TTY payphone specifically designed for the hearing impaired, a normal call time for her became a burden for those waiting.
People behind me were getting really frustrated, but there was nothing I could do.
She still gets nervous when she's traveling because despite advancements in technology, those with disabilities are still too often left behind in an emergency. Today, Laura is a teacher at Innovation Middle School.
They don't always know the story, so I have to tell them the story about what happened. Teach that part of history in my class.
And she now has firsthand experience navigating the world through a tragedy without being able to hear that she can now share with her students. Kirsten Holmes, News 8.
And you can see for her, like most of us, those images, those vivid memories are still just so bright, as if it was just the other day. So tragic.
That it's been a long time, but it hasn't. When you see those, you're brought right back.
You are, absolutely. Yeah. Events to remember the nearly 3,000 lives lost began today in Washington, D.C. and New York City.
At the New York Stock Exchange this morning, traders held a moment of silence to commemorate the day and honor the victims. Near the nation's capital, bells rang 3 times, one for each location planes hit on September 11th, 2001. Tomorrow, ceremonies will mark the anniversary at the Pentagon in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and New York City. Events for the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks are being held all across San Diego County as well tomorrow.
From a parade to a concert to flag plantings for the nearly 3,000 lives lost, News 8's Heather Hope has a preview of the tributes and shows us the ceremonies that took place today.
The journey of the 9/11 memorial painting. This artwork has been traveling all across San Diego County to different fire stations for the last 6 years. Well, it now wraps up its movement across the county here at the Encinitas Library, giving more people an opportunity to never forget.
We can't allow it to be forgotten. Painting owner Wendy Moldow has shown off this work of art since she bought it in 2015. It previously sold for $26,000 by the Carlsbad artist who was commissioned to do the painting to raise money for the families of the fallen firefighters.
I came up with the idea of why not start the journey of the traveling 9/11 memorial painting.
The painting shows a downcast firefighter in front of falling towers and a tattered U.S. flag.
The heroism that we witness from firefighters and first responders is worth remembering.
The art has moved from Fallbrook to Solana Beach, Santee, and more.
This book that we brought along so that it shows from when it first began, all the fire stations.
Also today, Cuyamaca College in El Cajon held a 9/11 remembrance ceremony. The program featured a 70-foot-tall American flag and a moment of silence with 2,977 flags planted for each life lost in the terrorist attacks. The crowd heard from 9/11 Army combat veteran Alan Estrada, who suffered from a traumatic brain injury from an IED explosion while fighting in Afghanistan.
It was the sacrifice of the well-being of my body, my spirit, and how I am now fundamentally changed for my service.
Then at Foster Elementary School in Allied Gardens, students planted flags in front of their school to remember those killed in the attacks on 9/11. The PTA plans to keep them up until Sunday. A host of events are planned for Saturday, including a 9/11 commemoration in Coronado, recognizing 100 first responders at 8 a.m. Then at 9, the 56th Poway Rotary Parade kicks off with the theme Honoring Our Community Heroes, featuring high school bands and horses. La Mesa's American Legion event begins at 11 a.m. at the Vietnam Memorial. A big tribute on the flight deck of the USS Midway Museum begins at 2:30 p.m. with a helicopter flyover and the U.S. Navy Band.
This painting will be on display for the entire month of September here at the Encinitas Library. Also tomorrow on 9/11, they will host the Art Night from 6 to 9. For this and other events on September 11th, you can go to our website, cbs8.com. Heather Hope, News 8.
Many ways to take part. One really important thing, we've had stories on how a lot of kids, they're not being taught about it in school, so bring your children, help them learn about this, because this is a seminal moment in U.S. history.
Share those memories.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Despite a wild night of thunder and lightning, we're wrapping up the week with another just scorching day across the county.
Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis is in early tonight with a look at the conditions. Carlene, I don't think I've drank enough water today. I left my water bottle at home.
No.
Oh, but you know what? I just looked behind the desk.
Okay, girl.
I left one here last night.
Oh, good. I'm about to say, I got you. If you need some money so I can get your water bottle in the canteen, I don't know. We'll take care of you. We're going to get you nice and hydrated. Yeah, well, the reason we had the thunderstorms yesterday was because of all the heat. And so as we go into today, we're still talking about those hot temperatures, 90s across the valleys, also 70s and 80s right along the coast, the upper 70s, 81 degrees today as a high for downtown, 108 in Borrego Springs. We also did have some thunderstorm activity, just wasn't west of the mountains for today. We are done when we go into the weekend and next week, but we are talking about elevated fire concerns. Those details ahead. Carlo, Marcella.
President Joe Biden says his administration is ready for a fight as a growing number of Republicans speak out against his plan requiring companies mandate employee vaccination.
The new OSHA rule applies to companies with 100 employees or more and requires weekly testing for employees who don't get the shots. Some GOP governors are threatening legal action.
When you have a president like Biden issuing unconstitutional edicts against the American people, we have a responsibility to stand up for the Constitution and to fight back.
Have at it.
Meantime, starting today, fines are doubling for anyone who refuses to wear a mask while flying. This can go up to $3,000 for repeat offenders.
As we head into the final weekend ahead of the recall election, tonight's Reiner Report shows us how the recall candidates are making a final push.
Governor Gavin Newsom cast his ballot in person today. Political reporter Morgan Reiner was there and got a chance to speak with the governor.
Recall candidates are predicting that if Governor Gavin Newsom wins this recall, we can expect more mandates to come. Well, new polls out today from Berkeley show that Governor Gavin Newsom is winning by a large margin. So I asked the question. Conservative talk show host Larry Elder campaigning in San Diego Friday with Latino pastors.
This governor has required every state worker who's not been vaccinated to be tested once a week and to wear a face mask at work. When I become governor, one of the first things I'm going to do is to repeal that mandate.
Also commenting on the new vaccine mandates President Biden announced Thursday.
I think what Joe Biden has done is probably illegal.
Something Governor Newsom said after casting his vote in Sacramento that he supports.
I support his call to finish the job,
including LA County's new vaccine mandate for school kids ages 12 and older.
Is that something you would like to see across the state?
Well, we've always provided the supports for local decision making. I want to give this an opportunity to work.
But it's not out of the question.
Keep an open mind. This is fluid and dynamic situation. Right now I'm focused on getting through Tuesday.
New polls out today from Berkeley show Newsom's support has grown exponentially since their last one 6 weeks ago showed a tight race. Now 60% favor Newsom, 39 want him out.
We expect maybe, a couple million people to be voting over this weekend.
Paul Mitchell is the VP of Political Data Incorporated, the company that provides voter information to Berkeley.
That poll suggests that voters do know largely where they're going to vote on this. And I think that if they don't know where they're going to vote on it by this weekend, they're probably not going to vote.
So what has changed in the last 6 weeks? Well, if you ask certain experts, they would say it's the increase in messaging and sense of urgency from the Democratic Party. But if you ask former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer's team, well, they have another idea. His campaign manager, one of them, tweeted that this came down to Larry Elder, that Larry Elder pretty much handed this recall to Governor Gavin Newsom on a silver platter.